Oh, is this thing not on? Is that why? That's what it was. Okay, I was going to start it up and we somehow have to turn it on first. Interesting. How'd you guys enjoy the weekend? You were able to get stuff done or have a break or all of the above?
Yeah.
Now it wants to work. Finally. Okay, cool. All right. So we're back up here. For anyone who is a social work, hello. Major. How many of you guys have your program check sheet? I'm always going to start it this way. This tells you exactly what you need to take to graduate. Yours is biology. Then you'll get one for biology. It's going to be the same on this side. And this is just social work on that side. So that way you check them all down the list. Do you guys all have yours yet? Okay. So as long as you take those classes, you finish on time and you graduate with the major you signed up for. So I always start with that so you know exactly what you have. 120 is now the new magic number. So any questions about that one? Because I want you guys to always have what you need to graduate and what it will look like to graduate. Oh, here we go. I was wondering where these went. So we're into how social work and social services are delivered. I don't know if any of you guys ever got pandemic relief, but usually goes like federal money first, then local, then state, and then that looks weird. Hope it's not all dirty. Then our tax dollars kind of going through. Did anyone hear that we've added 87,000 new IRS tax agents this year? So they put $80 billion into the federal system, and that means they'll have 87,000 new IRS agents. So just making sure, like if we made money off of cryptocurrency or a side hustle on eBay, or if we sell stuff, which I actually do sell, some things I just like all for I find cheap and I know it'll sell for more, I'll buy it and sell it. But now I guess IRS is looking up that eBay side hustles and other things we have. So that's how our government is funded. Any of you guys had taxes taken out of your paychecks yet? Like if you work a summer job, I feel like they take out a lot, don't you? I know it's an opinion. Some people might be like, no, I should pay more in taxes. I don't hear them often, but most people are like, when I got that $500 paycheck, all I got was $400. Where did it all go?
That's a lot.
Where have you guys worked that you had to pay taxes? Anybody?
I worked in like a restaurant, but it was one by a family, but they still took taxes.
Okay. Which is good, is if you make more than $600 for them, you have to pay taxes.
Oh.
If you make less than 600, like I would landscape for my brother, mulching or shoveling snow, I'd stop it right at $600 so I didn't have to pay taxes. Where have you all worked before? Did they take out taxes?
Yeah.
Did it feel like a lot? I feel like, how much was it? Out of how much? Okay. That seems right. I know. That's what I'm saying. It's just a matter of opinion. Where it's like, dude, that's like, if you got $10 an hour, that's 5 hours worth of work. Or if it's 15, So apparently they're hiring 87,000 new IRS agents to like look into our books and make sure we're paying. Because the social service delivery system, it may have to do something with like inflation. You know how things are going up in cost. Has gas finally come back down? Like, do you think gas is cheap or it's still expensive? Remember a year ago, like this summer it hit 5. Hello. But then it went down to around 350. Is it 350? So, and a year ago it was like 220. You know what I mean? That's where it's, is it cheap? Is it expensive? Apparently they took the federal tax out of that to make it cheaper, so it wouldn't fix the roads or whatnot. So the taxes that we pay go into these. Bureaucracy is funded by taxes, and they have civil service hiring. So that's some of the stuff that we have. There's private social services, like some social workers just charge fee for service. Like I'll see somebody on insurance and they'll pay me. I do see folks on Medicare and Medicaid, and that pays, and that comes from federal tax dollars. So that is one way our tax dollars funded. Private social services are funded through agency bylaws, may have affiliation with national organizations or shared management, etc. So here's some of the stuff funded and how they're funded. You either have public services or private. The authority is local, state, and federal laws. That's kind of small, so I hope you guys can see that. And if it's too small, I'll blow it up a little. So this is all the different places where your taxes go. If you're ever wondering, like, why do I have to pay all this in tax? Private stuff, though, usually is paid for out of your own pocket dollars. That makes it smaller for me, so I'm not going to do that. I'll just blow this one up and then zoom in. Things of that nature. So examples of public and private services, you've got the public stuff are Social Security Administration, Township Youth Services, County Nursing Home Services, State Department of Children's Services, and then regional planning. For private, you have people that resource and refer, like at my private practice, they'll just refer them over to see me. One example is Jewish Federation of Multipurpose Senior Center or United Ecumenical Food Pantry. Some of those are just funded by donations and cash that come in and give out food. Even local hospitals, social work departments sometimes are private social services. Then here's the different agencies or organization types. You have agencies that deliver the social services, and then there's the associations that advance purposes of membership. They provide membership services. So sometimes that's if you want to see a doctor, you could be paid by Medicare and Medicaid, but also if you want to get like in first to see a doctor, they're starting to offer people like concierge service. If you've ever heard of this, you pay $1,000 a year and you get a doctor on call, like right when you call them. They just dial it up and bring the doctor to you. So that's kind of weird. I've never experienced those. Here's some other associations. You have the Alliance for Children and Families, the American Public Service Organization, the Association for Community Organization and Social Administration, and then the Canadian Association of Social Workers. The one that we fall under is here. That's what gives us accreditation. Under Council on Social Work Education, CSWE is funded by fees that we pay as a school, so it's very expensive to stay accredited, but what it helps you guys do is cut out a whole year of graduate school. Like if you graduate here with a BSW, your senior year is like your first graduate school year. You don't have to take those 66 hours in grad school. You only take 36. So those are some of the details. Also have primary host, sectarian and non-sectarian, urban and rural differences. So depending on where you're getting funded from. Here's some of the ways they come in. Grants, which by your senior year, we teach you guys how to write a grant. Community funds, endowments, and fees for service, insurance reimbursement, or purchase of service contracts. And here's some other, right out of chapter 4, things that are funded by social services. And then I wanted to pause that. Oh, that's definitely quiet. I wonder if it's turned down all the way. The documentary, The Line. If it's still free and won't shut me down, showing the poverty line in America and some of the things that we struggle with. So any questions before we jump into that? Anybody ever seen this before? It's about the poverty line and how it's getting harder with inflation. Like it's probably $24,000 a year for a family of 4. I feel like it's going to go up to like 29 or 30 because of
The
inflation.
have and the have-nots. The line. The place that people on the bottom are trying to get to. The place that people on the top are trying to keep from going below. They don't want to look below it either. They don't want to see what's down there because that'll make them feel too guilty about being above it.
The line is the firing line in which people face survival or death. And sometimes the person holding the gun is their neighbor, and sometimes it's their congressman or their alderman who's not doing enough to help them.
The line is where you were always in a position to give help. And then for the first time, this line of, I've gone from to someone who needs help.
There's a certain amount of pride that comes in being independent. And there's a certain amount of shame that comes into having to beg every little thing that you get.
$23,000. This is 10 years old, so
$23,000 is no money. And yet I could still see families who make $35,000, who are still poor, who are still about to lose their home, who still can't afford groceries.
When you start trying to tell people about poverty, they start making excuses and making heartless statements about why people are in poverty, and they don't even have a clue. They don't even have a clue.
Some of the most prevalent and damaging stereotypes about poor people are that they're lazy, that they're stupid, they don't have any skills, prefer poverty, that they can't take care of their families.
Poor people are working harder, just trying to keep their heads above water than we can even imagine. It's hard.
It doesn't matter if you have to stand in line and kind of feel bad about yourself, that you're a failure. You have to cross that line to be able to keep lights on, to be able to keep feeding your kids.
That could be you without a house, wondering if they're going to go and put you out. But for the grace of God, because a lot of these people had jobs, have degrees, did everything right, but the bottom fell out. And that bottom was that line. They went below that line.
DuPage County is considered one of the richest counties in the state of Illinois, probably one of the top 50 counties in the country as far as per capita income. So there are a lot of well-educated, middle-class, upper-middle-class people that live here. There's also the part of the county that people don't talk about. There's the about 10% of the population that lives at or below the federal poverty line.
How you doing? Good morning. Here you go. Thank you. Just have a seat over there. Okay, thanks.
I remember the first time that I tried to go, I just couldn't do it. I drove there and I sat there and I couldn't get out of the car. And the second time I got out of the car, went in line and then just got either impatient or just sort of embarrassed and just kind of walked away. Because you just don't want to admit that you're that defeated. You've been brought up never to be a charity case, never to have to ask for help, and all of a sudden you're in that position where you got nowhere else to go, and it's hard.
And you're here for food pantry today?
Right.
And you have a birthday bag for Jason?
Yes,
Good. All right. How old is Jason?
it's gonna be 12.
Suburban poverty is now at currently higher rate than urban poverty. It's been a tidal wave over the last 5 years, whereas maybe before it was a trickle. Now it's just suddenly, people standing outside the door of the food pantry waiting for us to open. There's a desperation, and all the organizations haven't been ready to deal with the numbers of people coming through their doors. Private organizations are a drop in the bucket compared to the federal assistance programs. And so I think there's got to be a partnership. We certainly know that we have a responsibility to do the job that we're doing, and we want to do the job we're doing, but we can't do it alone. We need the resources of the government to help.
So you said 2 from here?
Right.
So this is a food pantry that does get a lot of the government food. Have you guys ever heard of government cheese? Is that still a thing? Like back when I was younger, you get government cheese. Some people love it and say it tastes good. Some people are like, no, it's kind of nasty. I'm somewhere in the middle. Like if I'm hungry, I'll eat it. But that's where they'll distribute this. At our church, St. Leo's, we have a food pantry that serves about $1,500 a month. So they get most of these from government resources.
One from here. Okay. Okay.
Applesauce.
All right. 1 box of cereal. Okay. All right. Should I go healthy or what the kids like?
Everyone comes here. It's people that have grown up in poverty to people that had 6-figure jobs, that were running companies that have lost their jobs. So they're at the end of the rope and they end up here because they don't have anywhere else to turn.
I'm 48 years old and I have 3 kids, single dad, got a daughter who's 17, and 2 sons. They're 14 and 11. Gonna be 12 on Tuesday or Wednesday. So.
Okay. All right.
I was in banking, a senior vice president, making 6 figures. I was very comfortable. And the last bank I was at was acquired, went off on my own and started to organize banks kind of at the perfect wrong time in a perfect storm, and kind of everything fell apart from that.
Okay.
Also a big turkey in the back.
My wife at that time filed for divorce because we were in an affluent town. Kind of the stress of all it took its toll on our marriage, and pretty much that was it. I had to decide what I was going to do with the rest of my life. I had always in the back of my mind thought about teaching. My mom was a teacher, my grandmother was a teacher, my sister's a teacher. So I kind of thought, well, maybe this is my signal to make that transition. sometimes you just feel like you're sending your resume into a black hole. You talk, to a principal or you follow up and they're like, we've got 4,000 applicants. And you're like, okay, how do I get noticed? How do I do anything? Pretty much I've been on my own for 2 years, trying to make by on substitute teaching income, trying to make by on any tutoring income I can get on the side. And substitute teaching, you're looking at 85 to 100 hours a day, depending if you get called into work that day. And usually it's last minute, you may get a phone call at 5:30 in the morning. For me, best case, if I'm working almost every day, I can make $12,000. That would be the best I could do. I never thought I would be in that position. I was a straight A student. I got a high ACT, went to a great school, graduated high honors. Everything is roses. Everything's perfect in your life.
Coffee. Always desperate for coffee.
You have to work really hard to find the way to get you back on your feet.
All the bread you want?
Oh, the bread? Okay. All right.
I mean, I'm insulted if somebody says, John, you're just lazy. You're just not trying. You just don't care. I care. I care more than anybody.
Thank you very much. It's sort of like being at a grocery store where not everything's been put on the shelf, but you just have to do the best you can and hope you get enough that can help you to get through each month. So you kind of put your own choices to the back burner because you just have to try to look and say, what do you really need?
I think that there's a real divide in this country and that people are struggling. The people that maybe are sort of untouched by the recession think that, unemployment is going down and, things are starting to look up. Businesses are starting to hire people. Employment is going down and, things are starting to look up. Businesses are starting to hire people. They're not seeing those people that have really, really been struggling for a long, long time.
You have to make choices sometimes about what bills you're going to pay. I mean, I've had my gas shut off. I've had my electric shut off. It's horrifying. And it's embarrassing when your kids go to turn on sunlight at work. It's the most horrible feeling in the world. Kids just don't get it. I think that's been the hardest thing is just to answer the questions, my youngest son, get your car fixed, and it's like, well, when I can, I have gotten used to checking for the expiration dates. Sometimes, you just got to be careful. I mean, not that you're angry, you're grateful that you get what you get, but one time I got like some Velveeta that somebody donated. It was like 5 years old. It was like a black brick. I'm hoping that I can hold on for at least another year, maybe to my kids at the age they are. I really want to be around for them, so moving isn't an option for me. I just feel like I've aged so much. It's like a constant kind of throbbing in your mind of like, what am I going to do? I don't want to worry about this anymore, but you just don't know how to stop it. You're doing everything that every person says is the right thing to do, the right steps to follow, but it's not happening. And what if it doesn't happen? What if it doesn't happen fast enough?
I do think that a lot of the violence and a lot of what is going on right now is associated with people who are living with post-traumatic stress disorder. Trauma is simply a shift, a sudden shift in the ways in which we understand life and make meaning. Trauma in a psychological or more psychosocial sort of sense in which I'm poor now. Wow. What am I supposed to do? Or the other experience of people who have lived in poverty their entire life, and their mother did, and their grandmother did, and their grandmother did. So there've been generations of poverty, and there is a more deeper trauma, which is affiliated with this sort of nihilism or this sense of meaninglessness and hopelessness that says we will always be this way. This will always be the case.
So this guy gets into post-traumatic stress disorder and how some of the behaviors that come from not dealing with a PTSD can influence.
And it's considered K-Town from Pulaski to Laramie because of the Karloff Keeler case. And this is where I grew up, in this house, with my family, my father, my mother, my 2 sisters, and 3 brothers. My sister was going to Mayport Church, which was about a block that way and about 2 blocks over. And she was walking, it was late, around 10 or so. She was coming down around the corner. She was shot and killed. She was shot in the head and killed. Police never came. They came for that night, but there was never an investigation. So as far as I'm concerned, they never found out who actually killed her. But that destroyed our family, pretty much. That was the beginning of the end of the family that we knew. Just one bullet. And we never recovered. One bullet. And we never recovered. I think the thing that bothers me the most is that my sister wasn't a statistic. She had a name. She had a family. She had people that loved her, who depended on her for their survival, literally for their survival emotionally. And it's hard for me even to come down this block. It's a long time that I can even drive down this block because I always think about the day that I heard the bullet.
Crazy in these streets, and it's hard right now to start judging. But when you get enough pain, it's when kids wondering if God still loves us.
So I go by Jake Quest, and my music is my ministry. It's around helping people understand that you're human and that you have a ton of possibility and a ton of potential inside of you. And we need to hear that more in these communities of poverty. People are killing each other for some very plain reasons, because whether they're poor or not, in terms of a quantitative measurement, they feel poor. They feel like they need more. They feel less than human. They feel offended by their government. They feel offended by their neighbor.
It's crazy, it's a world we created. It's like my dream is out of reach. It's million and dollars big. You see God in it's crazy in these streets. Feel my pain and it's so deep.
Most of the young people where I grew up in K-Town, they didn't expect to live past 18, 20, because their friends are dying around them. Like this is literally a war. They never know from one day to the next if you're going to wake up and your friend is going to be gone, or if it's going to be you. So there is no hope. You know why they're not education? Because education means you plan to have a future. They don't plan to have a future. They think that the streets are going to kill them. That's their reality. One of my first jobs was working at a bank downtown. And when I would say to people where I came from, where I lived, they would be so shocked. Really? You lived over there? Because they don't expect people from K-Town or certain areas to be able to get out and get good jobs and to actually look like success. I was one of the youngest supervisors at the bank. I didn't have my first child till I was 30. I didn't have to depend on anyone. And in one fall, it's just all the bottom fell out. There was a screw. My boot got caught in the screw and I fell head first, 14 feet into a wall. I broke my arm in two places. I knocked my brain into my spinal column. So it's caused me to start having strokes. I ended up having to have brain surgery where they had to take a big piece of my skull out so my brain could breathe. It took me 15, 20 years to finally get back to where I could be up and around. And keep in mind that I had a 7-month-old, a 2-year-old, and a 6-year-old. I knew I needed to leave, to move out of that neighborhood when my son turned 7.
See, I had a lot of fun as a child running up and down the block. I didn't realize that I was around one of the biggest drug operations right behind my house. There was a lot of stuff being sold in and out through there. They'd ask me to take something to someone else. No, I've done that in the building. I didn't even realize what I was doing. I was just delivering, thinking, hey, they asked me to take this down.
Some of these little boys I knew were bad news. He didn't, but I knew. This house that we live in now used to belong to my parents. And then when my father passed, the house was just too much for my mother to handle. So my sister, my brother, myself, we all moved out here to live with my mom. And together we made it a community home, which is what, quite often happens when people are trying to, get out of a bad situation. Right after, about a year after my accident, I realized that I would not be the same. And I went on disability. And disability gave me $1,000. It was, at that time, it was like $900 a month. I had 3 children. They gave me $900 a month for me, and they gave me $122, I think, for each child. Keep in mind, that's to pay my rent. I had food stamps, but it wasn't a lot, so a lot of times we would run out of food stamps.
It's not that much stuff in here. Yeah, but it's not as organized as shit. We'll proceed.
Giving my children hope, that was the hard part, because they went to a private school, so they lived with all these people who were very well off, who drove nice cars, whose parents were giving them credit cards to spend carte blanche. And then they came back here, and I'm saying, nope, we don't buy name brand gym shoes. Nope, we're not going out to eat. We gotta do whatever mama's got to cook. It was disappointing from a mother's point, because I wanted to give them the best. And I always thought when I had my children, I was going to be able to shower them. That was my desire, as I think most parents. That was my desire, but I wasn't able to do that.
I was born and raised in this little town called Davant, Louisiana, in 1945. Just about everyone in this community had done fishing of one type or another, the crab fishing, shrimping, or oystering, at least part-time. It was a wonderful way to make a living. God gave us a heaven here, a gold mine. It was there for the taking. Anyone that wanted to make a good, honest living could do it. All they needed was a strong back and a little bit of brains. No matter what time of year it was, you were either shrimping, crabbing, dredging oysters. A person that didn't have any work could come to this marina, go by the conveyors where they were unloading in the evening, and hey, I need a job. Okay, show up here tomorrow morning. You had a job. The people of this area, this entire area, depend on the environment. They depend on what God gave us. And God gave us a lot down here, but we didn't know how to take care of it.
Just a falling empires, slowly flowing through my hands.
Had someone told me 10 years ago that this place would be this dormant, I'd never believed it. I never would have believed it. But it's happened, and it's happened so quickly. It's just unimaginable. I don't know if it's because of the natural disaster that we had with Katrina or the oil spill. The natural resources are not there anymore. The coastline is washing away. There's places that when I was in high school, we used to go out and hunt rabbits. And now those places don't exist. They're all gone. They're gone, completely gone. It's a minimum on average 3 years before oysters ready for market. Next year there'll be no oysters. For 3 years there won't be any oysters. And this year we have a very low harvest of shrimp. So what's going to happen? I don't know. I don't have any confidence in the future. Unless we get a drastic change, a sudden change in the amount of seafood and the prices, there's no way that I can continue to do this and survive with it. Because all I'm doing now is losing money. You know, just can't do it. The numbers don't add up. They just don't add up. Okay. I don't worry about myself that much. It's only just me and Bonnie. We'll survive. But my children, I worry about my children. This community, I've seen a change not only with income, but I can see a change in the people. The people that are still here are not happy anymore. People were always jolly. They didn't worry about tomorrow. Tomorrow was taken care of. And now everyone's worried. They're all stressed. Catholic Charities was here up until last week paying people's utilities for them. They couldn't pay them. And now they're gone. They left last week. So a lot of these families that were dependent on that, they don't even have that now. So, in this great United States, believe it or not, we're gonna have people down here that are gonna have their electricity cut off. And they're gonna be living that way. I hope that it gets better. But deep down inside, being realistic, I don't see it. It's just a culture, the whole culture is gone.
Poverty is struggling to work. When you have to struggle paycheck to paycheck, it's poverty. You try to fight yourself out of it, but you can't. You can't. I was born and raised in Brooklyn, New York, with my two sisters and my brother, my mother, and my father, until my father decided to just leave the house and leave us by ourselves, which hurt my mother mentally and got her unstable. We would have never survived if welfare didn't approve us and we were getting food stamps every month and no. Me, by myself, I wouldn't have been able to do it, and I had to give up going to college. Went down to the racetrack in New York City with a friend of mine, started hot walking horses coming off the track, and that's where I started working, which was at the racetrack, and turned around and did it for 20 years. It was every day, 365 days a year, and that was it. There was never a day off. I came here to North Carolina after I stopped working at this track, and when you come off of that, everybody's like, okay, so what skill do you have? It's like, you really don't. You know, I had a skill of putting horses on a racetrack. I was in the shelter 3 months. It's a hard thing because North Carolina, the unemployment rate is 9.4. It's one of the highest in the United States. Being in the shelter, I wasn't ashamed of it. I did it on my own. I wasn't there because I used drugs, because I was an alcoholic. Sleep in the street. I wasn't going to get put in jail for sleeping in the street. Every day I used to get up, get dressed, and go out to look for a job and stuff like that. And then when I found out about Jim Noble's restaurant and the church services that they have here, and I introduced myself.
It is a 501c faith-based, not-for-profit restaurant. That's unusual. In fact, there's not been many done like this, I don't think. And it really has two parts. One, to help raise money from a nonprofit setting. We give all the profits away to feed the poor. Secondly, King's Kitchen Restoration Program, which is a discipleship, life-changing program to help people get back on their feet. Through on-the-job training, obviously, Bible study, discipleship. Even though it's a ministry, we also are a restaurant. And
In front of you, beside you, beside you. I came here and I volunteered here, and they threw me as a dishwasher. I've never worked in a restaurant before. Cool, we got a 4-top getting up. And it shocked everybody how fast I pick it up. when I put my mind to something that I really want to do, I know I can do it. I'll come with a big tray. Who's kitchen this afternoon? This is James. How come you? I said, you kidding? He goes, you start tomorrow. Would you like me to take your plate from you?
I do, yes.
Is everything okay? Please come back. Everything. Adam, is he the only just have one natural kid? 8 months later, I'm still here. I love working. I don't stop. When I come in the morning, I get here an hour before my shift starts. When I come in the morning, I get here an hour before my shift starts. How you doing? How's everything? Kids come right now. People in poverty.